Welcome everyone to a Football for Fun video. I am Daniel. I am a Texans fan, but also sometimes represent the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And welcome to our power ranking video. I guess you could say it's unofficial. I mean, official as of June 1st, 2025. Happy June, by the way. But obviously things could change with like injuries and like key signings and, trades and things like that. So this is going to be our power rankings. Now, what we did, obviously, as many of you know, my co-host Isaac, whom I would normally be doing this with, is not going to be around for a few months. So that meaning I am holding down the Football for Fun fort. So what we sort of did, and obviously with two co-hosts, you're going to have two different opinions as far as some certain things like power rankings and things like that. So he sent me his rankings and I'm just going to be reacting to them. Most of them I agree with. Some of them maybe I would put some teams a little higher or lower and stuff like that. But there's nothing really outlandish. So I am definitely proud to say that these are our Football for Fun power rankings as of June 1st, 2025. And before we get into the video, if you do like this video and content like this, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to get to 100 subscribers, triple digits. We're an extremely small channel, so be our 100th subscriber. With that said, let's go into the power rankings, and there's not really necessarily a spoiler page. I'm just going to go straight to it, which is at 32. We have the New Orleans Saints. And also, what I meant to mention is that Isaac has some notes, and sometimes I'll just be reading them because I do want his sort of opinions and stuff to be voiced. Especially if it's a ranking that I disagree with, then I'll read his side, his perspective, just so that you can kind of come to your own conclusions. Not that really anyone's coming to like conclusions about like our power rankings and things like that. But at 32, his only notes were ha ha ha, Saints suck. And I would probably agree with that. Obviously, it's going to be very rough. I think simply because they have no quarterback. I actually think maybe they have a more solid roster than they are given credit for. They have a pretty good offensive line. They have Alvin Kamara. They have a solid defense theoretically. But the problem is they have no one at quarterback. I mean, if Tyler Shuck turns out to be some solid like Derek Carr, Dak Prescott type player, I guess you could see that being the case. I mean, if he's solid, then I think the Saints could actually be way better than people think. But I'm fine with the Saints at 32. I personally probably would have had a different team at 32, but that is totally fine. At 31, does it go this way? At 31. So it's 32, 31. Okay, perfect. At 31, we have the Jets, which I think many people might think is sort of low, but honestly, it was a disaster with Rodgers, and I don't even think Rodgers played all that bad last year. I think he was only part of the problem. It's just a dysfunctional mess. We don't really believe in Justin Fields. Justin Fields is not that good of a quarterback, so not really much more to be said. But, sorry, Jets fans, you've been through it. Hopefully one day you can sort of break through and have a playoff appearance. At 30, we have the Browns. I mean, not surprisingly, they have like 5 quarterbacks, and none of whom are really good. They are a team like the Saints where I might view their roster as pretty solid, and it is easy to forget that they were a playoff team 2 years ago with Joe Flacco under the helm. I guess they don't have Nick Chubb, but they have Myles Garrett. I don't think their receivers are all that good. I think they still have Jerry Jeudy. He might be their one guy, but theoretically, and their coach is good as well, but, it's the same old Browns. Not really much more to be said there. At 29, we have the Colts, a team that we are collectively sort of down on. It just doesn't really seem like, they don't really have, very many star-studded players where you could justify putting them higher and contending for a playoff spot. And then you obviously, I guess you have Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman, but really? And I think what really tells the story is that Daniel Jones is competing for the starting spot in Indianapolis. So if he wins the starting job, then I think that is a very bad sign for the Colts, and especially for Anthony Richardson's career. Got drafted 3 overall, and then now comes down to this. So we have the Indianapolis Colts at 29. Moving on to 28, we have the New York Giants. It's just kind of same old Giants, just kind of same old Giants. Not really a great team. Russell Wilson's not really going to move the needle, and I highly doubt that Jackson Dart is offensive rookie of the year material. So they're probably just have another tough year, probably going to fire Brian Dabble and Joe Shane and just kind of start over with a new regime. Same old Giants. At 27, you have the Titans. My co-host says if you believe in Cam Ward, you'll like the Titans. I'm not ready to. The defense could be okay, but this feels like another down year, which I would probably agree with. Now, I wouldn't be shocked. There can be some shocker teams, and I guess that's kind of ironic, right? That I said I wouldn't be shocked. There will be some shocker teams. But anyway, the Titans could be one of them if Cam Ward's really good. You would kind of be going on the trajectory of, C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels, and then Cam Ward, which I think is entirely possible. I think their defense was actually pretty good last year. They just had a horrible quarterback. But I don't necessarily disagree with this ranking. We have the Titans at 27. Now, a team that I actually think, I don't disagree with this ranking either, Jags at 26. I do think they have a chance to be really, really improved. I would not be shocked if they're like 9-8 and back in the playoffs, but that's not about me, and I'll read what my co-host says. Not a Liam Cohen guy, and don't think he fixes Trevor. I do like Travis Hunter, though. Offense will be better, but not good enough. Maybe 7 wins. Okay, that's reasonable. I don't think they're going to be 2-15. I think they're going to be closer to that 7, 8, 9 win threshold. And I actually do see there's sort of a trend. I know Isaac says he's not really a Liam Cohen guy, but I did see there's a trend with 1 overall picks that were busts, but then turned out to be really good. Who am I thinking of? Bryce Young kind of got revitalized, and who's the guy in Tampa? Baker Mayfield. And was it Liam Cohen who coached both of them? I think so. I don't know. There's some trend, which at some point I'm going to look up and make a video about. But I do think there is a chance that Trevor Lawrence revives his career. He has Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter to throw to. But you never know. I mean, again, it is the same old Jags. They probably won't be that good. 25, we have the Dolphins, also a team that we're collectively not very high on. I mean, Tua is just about as average as the day is long. You have issues with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey and things like that, and we don't really think that Mike McDaniel's all that good. I always joke that he's so, hipster and cool, but he's never won a playoff game and can't win a playoff game in the cold to save his life. So, something does need to change in Miami. They need to be a more physical and tough team. Because in Miami, it's tough. It's warm weather. There's a lot to do and things like that. So we have the Dolphins at 25. Not really something that we disagree on. 24, we have the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are always the team. We never really know what to do with them. They're never really a playoff team. And the one year they completely collapsed. But they're also never, horrible. I mean, they drafted Kyler Murray with the 1 overall pick, 8 years ago maybe? So they're always in that 7-8 win range. Are they ever going to break through? Are they ever going to tank not tank, but are they ever going to go down and get the 1 overall pick or 1 or 2 overall pick? You just never know. Well, I say that they're probably going to be a 7-8 win team. Don't disagree with my co-host there. At 23, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. They sound cool. I think it's cool that Pete Carroll got there. Geno Smith's their quarterback. They drafted Ashton Genty. Tom Brady's a minority owner and things like that. So it looks like on paper. Did they extend Max Crosby this season? I guess they did, but I think they did, yes. So it does look like on paper they're doing a lot of cool things, but just like a lot of these other bottom feeder franchises, it is the Raiders, and I don't necessarily trust them to be very good. So I do think 23 and last in the AFC West is appropriate for them. That would be last in the AFC West, right? Yeah, okay. At 22, we have the Atlanta Falcons. Don't really disagree there either. They could be good. I think a lot of people think that they are going to be good. I mean, the NFL apparently thinks that they have 5 primetime games, right? But I'm not really, sold. My co-host says it's Atlanta. Even if Penix is legit, which he might be, they'll probably screw it up. Still, they're better than last year. But to me, 3rd in the NFC South, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I guess that does kind of depend on what you think about the Panthers, which we will get into. I think a lot of people would have named the Panthers by now at number 22 as one of the bottom 10 teams. 10, 11, however that works, as one of the bottom 10 teams in the NFL. But we are not there yet. At number 21, we have the Dallas Cowboys. It is crazy that 2-3 years ago, they were borderline just one of the better teams in the NFC. They could just never get done in the playoffs, but They just had a rough year. Dak did get hurt. So if he is healthy for all 17 games and has a solid sort of season, then I wouldn't be shocked if they're back into sort of playoff contention. But they also have Brian Schottenheimer as their head coach. I don't really necessarily see it either. My co-host says they're not awful either, which is completely fair. At number 20, we have the Chicago Bears. Now, I would like to say the Bears are one of those teams, kind of one of those watch out, could make the playoffs out of nowhere team. They have Ben Johnson. They improved their offensive line. Caleb's going to have another year to develop and hopefully actually have coaches who will tell him how to watch film and things like that. But did they add a weapon? I forgot. Well, they kind of had weapons last year, and I think they add someone, I don't remember. But they should be an improved team. And it wouldn't shock me if they made the playoffs. But my thing, again, is they're the Bears. I don't really trust them necessarily. Who knows? I think a lot of people assume that Caleb's going to be good. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I mean, we'll see. I think this is kind of a make or break year for him, which is crazy as early as year 2. But he has Ben Johnson and everything going for him on paper. So, 5-time or whatever offseason champs, the Bears. At 19... we have the Patriots. The Patriots are a team that we are collectively very, very high on compared to sort of their position last year. Now, the thing is, I do think a lot of people think that too, so it's not like we're the only ones saying that they could be good, but they have Mike Vrabel. Drake May had another year to develop. They drafted a running back. They have Stephon Diggs, but obviously other stuff's going on there. But in theory, they should have a better sort of receiving core. Solid defense. We think that the Patriots could be a really solid team, and it wouldn't shock me if they're like 9-8 and either make the playoffs as a 7 seed or slightly miss. But either way, I think if they win 8-9 games, that's very realistic and would be a win for them. My co-host says, higher on them than most. I'm a Drake May believer. I'm a Mike Vrabel believer. I like what they did this offseason. They could sneak into the playoffs, basically what I'm saying. So, at 18, we have the Seahawks. Now, maybe I would put the Seahawks a little bit higher. My co-host says, I want to like them more, but it's tough. Running backs and wide receivers are solid, but the O-line is shaky. Bad news for Darnold. Defense should be okay, not great. Seattle just feels meh. And yeah, I guess it really depends on what you think of Sam Darnold, because wherever Sam Darnold's been that's not Minnesota, he's kind of sucked. And yeah, I mean, I think on paper they have a really solid team. I would probably think that, I do think that while Sam Darnold has had a history of sucking, he did sort of improve in his stints in Minnesota and also San Francisco. He really got kind of the guidance he needed, coaching or whatever, and so I think he's going to be an improved player in his tenure in Seattle. I don't think he's going to be some like bottom feeder quarterback, but if you tell me he's in like the mid-range, that wouldn't shock me. If Sam Darnold's like the 16th best quarterback, I think the Seahawks will be okay. Maybe they'd be closer to like 14 or something like that. But again, maybe we're nitpicking. 14, 18, that's going to be a lot of those like 7, 8, 9 win teams. So honestly, maybe that's a little bit low, but I also, I don't see them as some like NFC 1 seed, but I also don't think they're going to be drafting in the top 5. So Seahawks at 18 sounds right. And at 17, the Carolina Panthers. I'm just going to read what my co-host says and then just leave it there. Hear me out. Top 10 O-line. Stats back it up. Top 10 running back duo in Hubbard and Dowell. Is that really? I don't know. Wide receiver room improved with Tet McMillan? T-Mac? I just know him as T-Mac. But y'all know who I'm talking about. The guy who was drafted like 10 overall out of Arizona State. Leggett, Cocker, plus Steady Thielen. Okay. Bryce was playing well in his second last half of the season, even versus the Chiefs and Eagles. I do agree there. Defense added talent with Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, Trevon Moehrig, others. This team could be average, and that makes 17 pretty reasonable. Okay, I mean, I do think the Panthers could be improved. I think kind of one of my maybe hot-ish takes is that I don't really think the Panthers are going to be that good. I think they're probably closer to like 20, 25 or something like that. I do agree that Bryce Young has improved, and he has all the makings to be a top 10 quarterback, but top 10 running back duo, I don't know. I feel like I can name 10 running back duos I like better. Wide receiver room's like, all right. I guess the defense is okay. We'll see. We'll see. All right, at 16, we have the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are a very hard team to judge because if they have a good quarterback like Sam Darnold was last year, they're like a top 5 team. But if their quarterback sucks, then they could be closer to that 18 to 20 range. I think the Vikings will be pretty good. I do think that Kevin O'Connell is one of the best coaches in the world, and he made Sam Darnold and a washed Kirk Cousins really good. So I think he's going to be able to do wonders with J.J. McCarthy. I don't necessarily think that J.J. McCarthy is going to be some top 10 quarterback, but I think they're going to play it kind of like he did at Michigan State, which is that they're going to kind of make him throw minimally. They'll be able to hand off to, I guess Aaron Jones is their running back, right? Yeah, so they'll be able to hand off to Aaron Jones, make some plays to Jefferson and Addison, and I think they're going to be like an 11-12 win team. But again, it's really hard to judge because we know nothing about J.J. McCarthy, and there's still like Rodgers, but they don't need Rodgers. They just need to stick with McCarthy. All right. At 15, we have the Steelers, and this assumes that they sign either Rodgers or Cousins. If they have to start Rudolph, he's saying we drop to 24. I don't know. They might even be higher than that with if they had to start Rudolph. I think my co-host says same old Steelers. They'll somehow go 9-8. Not much else to say. They're just average. I'd probably agree. I think the thing with the Steelers is that their defense is really good. You have TJ Watt, you have Cam Hayward, you have just a lot of guys, Joey Porter, players like that. But their offense is always very questionable. They trade away George Pickens, so, they have DK Metcalf, so I guess that's a plus. But obviously the big question is who is going to be throwing the football. And my kind of philosophy with this is that I guess you're supposed to assume that Rodgers is a Steeler, but I'm kind of like, if Rodgers doesn't sign with the Steelers, and that might be something I make a video about in the near future, assuming he just kind of lingers like this for like June, July, August, is that if Rodgers doesn't sign, then what do? I think the top candidates would be, they just start Mason Rudolph or the Ohio State kid, what's his name? But you know who I'm talking about, that guy. So you start Rodgers. Well, if Rodgers doesn't go, you start Rudolph. You could also start the Ohio State kid. I mean, I'm even saying go sign Ryan Tannehill or trade for Jameis Winston or trade. I don't know. Just do something to where you can have some competency at quarterback and try to will your way to 8-9 wins. Or tank. I guess that's not completely out of the realm, but yeah. For now, we have the Steelers at 15. At number 14, we have the Denver Broncos. Now, I think this might be where my co-host and I don't quite see eye to eye. I think they're going to be really good. I think Sean Payton's one of the best coaches in the world. I mean, the Broncos roster at this time last year was seen as very average. You obviously didn't know what to think of Bo Nix, and they didn't have very many weapons. And he made them very viable. I know the playoff game was ugly, but they made the playoffs, and I think they've only improved. They added they had Eric Armstead and some other guy, Dre Greenlaw, and as well as Hufanga. So they had a few guys from the Niners. Bo Nix is going to be improved, and so I think they're probably. I mean, maybe I would put them they might be close to 12 or something like that, but I do think they are really, really improved. My co-host says maybe I'm in denial, but I've never been a Sean Payton fan. Well, sucks because Sean Payton's a Hall of Fame coach. Still not a Bo lever either. Nix is probably good, but not amazing. I could probably get behind that. Great defense, but I don't trust the offense. Feels like a 9-8 or 10. Okay, I mean, 10-7, 11-6. I mean, I'm not really gonna pinch pennies here. I don't necessarily disagree too hard. At 13, we have the Rams. Another team that I think I'm a little bit higher on than my co-host. I keep saying my co-host. I can just say Isaac, I guess. Isaac says, I'm not as in love with the Rams as others are, just not feeling it. No deep reasoning. Sometimes you just go with a gut feeling. They should be good, not great. 9 or 10 wins feels right. Now, you'll kind of see who we think ends up winning the NFC. What is that? The NFC West? Right. We've revealed the Cardinals already and the Seahawks. So we know. So you should know who we think wins the NFC West. which I actually don't necessarily disagree with. But I do think the Rams also, I would like to think they could be good, but also Matthew Stafford's a year older. He doesn't have Cooper Kupp anymore, so I don't know. I think 9-10 wins is reasonable. It wouldn't really shock me if they're like, in the NFC Championship or anything like that, but I think that's pretty reasonable. All right, now we are getting to the really good teams. At number 12, the San Francisco 49ers. We think that the Niners will win the NFC West. I think that. I don't remember, like, last time we talked about if I predicted the Niners or the Rams. I think I have liked the Rams a lot in the past, but I think people just have short memories. They just, they saw the Niners struggle. They went, 6-11 or something like that, and they're like, oh, they're gonna suck again. And they just forget that the Niners were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Brock Purdy got extended. You still have the all-pros and, like, Christian McCaffrey, Trent Williams. You have Fred Warner still, Nick Bosa. So even though you lost a lot of your core components, you're still fielding a really, really good team. And I think the Niners are going to be back in it. Not necessarily back to the Super Bowl, but they should be in the playoffs and maybe win a playoff game. So I'd probably agree there. I'd probably also put the Niners at 12. At 11, I think a team that a lot of people think will be improved is the Bengals. Their offense was just electric. It just really came down to their defense. I think it's going to be hard for them to be Super Bowl contenders, which my co-host also agrees. He didn't see enough improvements. It is kind of weird with the whole Trey Hendrickson thing and, like, their first round pick, Shermer Stewart, not signing, which is kind of, just seems like there's some stuff going on. And I don't love that they are paying 44% of their salary cap to Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. But I do think those players are good enough to where they're just going to make some magic and just, they could be one of the better teams in the AFC if they just improve their defense. But even if they don't, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Like, last year going to the playoffs, or, just going to the final few weeks of the season, it was like, besides the Chiefs, are the Bengals just one of the hotter teams in the AFC? Like, no one wanted to deal with the Bengals. And, Isaac and I are already doing sort of, just kind of like predictions or predicting playoff seedings and things like that. And we're kind of like, a Texans-Bengals wildcard game in Houston would be electric. You have, CJ Stroud versus that defense. You have Jamar Chase versus Derek Stingley. Like, that would just be electric. So, sorry. No, I think I've been talking a lot. I just needed to take a breath. I don't know if this will be edited out or not. But at 11, we have the Bengals. At number 10, we have the Green Bay Packers. My co-host says, I'm just copying out because I don't really have very many developed thoughts. Green Bay's season hinges on Jordan Love. How far can he really take them? Feels like the offense stalled when it mattered last season. Maybe Matthew Golden can help change that. So, yeah, I think Love is pretty good. I think he's kind of proven to be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Probably one of the best in the NFC, if you really think about it. I mean, that's not really saying much because the NFC quarterbacks aren't as talented as the AFC, but I think they have a really good team all around. They have a good defense. They have solid weapons. We'll see. I mean, I think they're hoping that Matthew Golden kind of rises to like number one receiver rather than just having like 5 quintillion number twos and stuff like that. And you all know that I think that Matt LaFleur is a really, really, really good coach. So maybe that's a little high for me, actually. I might put the Packers closer to like 12 or something, but I think that's pretty reasonable. At 9, we have the Houston Texans. I did not put them there. My co-host did. So I'll just read what my co-host says. I assume Houston will be similar to last year. Should win the AFC South, no doubt. The real question, can they close the gap with the big three in the AFC? Still feels like they're a tier below, but I'd love to be wrong. So that's in reference to, we're one of the better teams. Well, we're the best team in the AFC South, but can we beat like the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, and then even some of those wildcard teams like the Bengals, the Chargers, the Broncos? Just teams like that are all also pretty challenging. My thing about the Texans, I think we have made some improvements with the offensive line. We have a new offensive line coach who should be really good, hopefully. And I think also our defense is very underrated. I think, and this is going to be a kind of a hot take that I'll probably make a separate video on. I think we could have like a top 2 defense next year in the NFL. I mean, if you really think about it, you have Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson. I'd say our defensive tackles are not that good, which is fine, but you have 2 elite edge rushers. You have good linebacker play with Al Shazier, Henry Toto, and Christian Harris. And then you have just kind of your no-fly zone with like Stingley and what's his name, Kamari Lassiter at corner. You have Petrie, Jimmy Ward, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Caden Bullock. So you just have a really, really good defense. I think the offense is good enough to where, if the offensive line is kind of intact, then you have C.J. throwing to, handing off to Dalton Schultz. Not Dalton Schultz. He's handing off to Joe Mixon, throwing to Dalton Schultz, Nico Collins, Christian Kirk. We'll see how good Jaden Higgins is. I think this could be a really good team, but it's Houston. They always disappoint somehow, so they're probably going to just be like 10-7, make the playoffs and get bounced in the wild card or the divisional round. But I think at 9, the Texans is very reasonable. But watch out. They could be a Super Bowl contender. At 8, we have the Commanders. My co-host says I'm not as high on Washington as others. They'll probably be a playoff team again, but they're not elite yet. Still need help on defense. I'm not a big fan of the running back room. Well, Isaac, when you do watch this, you don't have to justify the fact that you're not as high as Washington. You have them at 8. 8! That's a very good team. I mean, like, what are you supposed to have them at? 3? Like, I think 8 is right. I think this is perfect for them. I think they probably were about the 8th best team in the NFL last year. You have Jaden Daniels going to year 2. I don't even necessarily think he's going to have a sophomore slump like a lot of people are saying. I think he's kind of locked in, and you have some solid weapons with Terry McLaurin. I probably like the running back room better than you do. I think Dan Quinn is really, really good, but I think the Commanders at 8 is very reasonable. In fact, I would actually be more surprised I would be less surprised if they just missed the playoffs than if they were like a NFC 1 seed. Like, I think this is very reasonable. At 7, you have the Chargers, a team that we collectively like. You have Jim Harbaugh, Justin Herbert. Just sucks that they're in the AFC West, as my co-host says. They're still the Chargers until they stop disappointing. I'm cautious, but I don't know. Again, you have them at 7, which I think is appropriate. Maybe I'd have them a little lower, like 8 or 9 or something like that, but I do think they are one of the best teams in the AFC, and if only they weren't in the Chiefs division, they would be talked about more. So, Chargers at 7. At 6, you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, go Bucks. I might even say that this is a little bit high for the Bucks. My co-host says, way higher on Tampa than most. I think they're a sleeper threat in the NFC. I was never Liam Cohen guy, so I think the offense improves. Interesting. Especially with year 2 Bucky Irving and adding Emeka Egbuka, defense will probably be good enough. Defense will be good enough in most weeks. Probably not elite, but still very good. I mean, some of you might have seen my episode with Devin, but you have an elite offense. You have an elite quarterback in Baker Mayfield. You have Evans, Godwin, Egbuka now. You have a solid offensive line with Tristan Wirfs. You have Bucky Irving. You have a very, very solid defense. So I do think 6 might be a little bit high, but I also will say don't be surprised when the Bucs are in the NFC Championship and no one saw it coming. Like, I don't even know. Like, I feel like we're the only people kind of speculating that's a possibility. It's all like, oh, the Eagles, the Lions, the, I don't know, Cowboys probably saying, I actually don't know, but maybe people are saying it. I don't watch as much, like, sports talk as I used to right now, but, don't be surprised when they're in the NFC Championship. Oh, Commanders was the other team. But at number 5, we have the Lions. They're getting Hutchinson back. And I mean, like, ultimately, like, yeah, this is the Detroit Lions. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. Haven't made the Super Bowl yet. Haven't won the NFC or anything like that. But they are, they have, Jared Goff is solid. I mean, I don't need to justify us putting them at 5. And, like, maybe you think they're a little bit better. But if you think that they're worse, then, like, I'm sorry. I guess we'll just let the games play. I mean, I can't really hate that. And number 4, you have the Bills. It's kind of the same type of thing. Like, it's Josh Allen, it's Sean McDermott, it's you have a solid defense, you have okay weapons. I mean, maybe not the greatest on paper, James Cook, but you do have Josh Allen. So, it's just one of the things, I guess with these good teams, they're so good, you don't have to like explain yourself. Like we all know that the Bills are good and that Josh Allen's elite. By the way, congratulations, Josh Allen got married this weekend, I think. I think I saw on social media. So we have the Bills at number 4. Number 3, you have the Ravens. Maybe you could flip-flop the Bills-Ravens if you really wanted to. I might be inclined to put the Bills at 3. I think I'd trust the Bills to make it to a Super Bowl and pass the Chiefs more than the Ravens, but Ravens also very dang good. Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Zay Flowers, solid defense. You know, I think, yeah, the Ravens are really, really good. Always beat the crap out of the Texans when they play. Number 2, you have the Eagles. I mean, I know we have the Super Bowl champions at number 2, you know, like, which you can hate, I guess, that's fine. But number 2, you're the second best team in the NFL. This would kind of, you know, if we went by like rankings and assuming the top 2 teams go to the Super Bowl, we have you going to the Super Bowl again. So, Eagles fans, don't be too uptight about it. You did lose a lot of key players in free agency. You lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Zach Bond. Was it Zach Bond? No. Yes? No, Milton Williams. I think Zach Bond was a guy the Eagles got last year, right? Yeah. So you did lose some key players in free agency, but we still think you're one of the best teams in the world. You have Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. You have the defense. You have Vic Fangio as your defensive coordinator. So you're a really solid team. But at number 1, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. Note the return of Rashee Rice, presumed improvements from Xavier Worthy, a solid offseason, and a chip on their shoulder. The Chiefs will be even better next season. And, yeah, I mean, I can't really agree more. Can't really agree more. That means I agree, right? So Chiefs are going to be really good. And again, you know, you just have the best quarterback in the world, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Rashee Rice coming back, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce. You have the defense, Chris Jones, you know, Karlaftis, just like a lot of players like that. Maybe on paper, they're not like they're not mathematically like the best team in the NFL, but I think when the games play, they are going to be one of the top, at the very, very least, top 3 team in the NFL. So those are our power rankings. Please let me know what you think. Again, if you made it this far, write the code word LaCroix. It's LACROIX. So if you have made it, thank you so much for being a wonderful viewer, and type LaCroix in the comments. And yeah, hope you all have a great rest of your day. Again, if you like the content, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. I imagine if you made it this far, you probably do. And we will be back with some more videos. And if you have any video ideas as well, feel free to let me know. With that said, I think I will end the video here. Definitely not awkwardly. And have a good rest of your day, y'all. Bye.